How's everybody doing tonight? You kids ready for Christmas? Have a seat right over here in front. Right over here in front.
Oh, you don't want to?
I'm going to tell you guys a little story. Come on up, guys. Don't be shy. So I want to introduce you guys to a buddy who's going to help me tell the story. And his name is Baby Buddy. Say hi, Baby Buddy.
Hi, Baby Buddy.
Hi, how are you today? Nice to meet you.
So he's going to be helping me tell the story. He's going to play the part of all three trees in the story. The name of the story is called The Three Trees. You guys ready for the story? Buddy, you ready?
I'm ready.
So, once upon a mountaintop, there were three trees that stood there. And they were young trees, but they were dreaming about what they wanted to be when they grew up. And the first tree looked up at the stars and said,
I want a whole treasure. I want to be covered with gold and filled with beautiful treasure. I want to be a treasure chest. Yeah.
that sound cool? That sounds pretty cool.
That's
So the second little tree looked out on the small stream trickling on its way to the ocean and said,
I want to be traveling mighty waters and be carrying powerful kings. I want to be the strongest ship in the whole world.
a strong ship, isn't that cool? Wouldn't you guys like to be a big giant ship? Oh, okay. So then the third little tree looked down into the valley below where the busy men and women worked in a busy town.
I don't want to leave the mountaintop at all. I want to grow so tall, and when people stop and look at me, they'll raise their eyes to heaven and think about God. I want to be the tallest tree in the whole world.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So years passed and the rain came and the sun shone and the little trees grew tall. These trees were so tall now, it was crazy. So one day, three woodcutters climbed the mountain. Can somebody say, boo, woodcutters? So the first woodcutter looked at the first tree and said, that tree is awesome! I'm going to cut it down. It's perfect for what I want it for. So he took his axe and he swung it really hard and it knocked the tree down. And the tree said,
Now I shall make a beautiful chest. I shall have a wonderful treasure.
the first tree said. So the second woodcutter came and he said, dude, look at that tree right there. It's the second tree. It's perfect. I'm going to cut it down. So he took his axe and he swung it really hard and he cut the second tree down. And the tree said, nice.
I shall send mighty water. I shall send for mighty waters. I'm going to be a strong ship for mighty kings. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool, I'll tell you what. Yeah. So anyways, so the third tree was standing there, and that woodcutter king, walking up, didn't even look at the tree. Didn't even look. And the tree's heart just kind of sank. Bough kind of just hung there, and the woodcutter said, any kind of tree will do. I don't care what you look like. And with the swoop of his axe, he cut him down. So the first tree rejoiced and was really happy. The woodcutter brought her to a carpenter's shop. That's where they make stuff with wood. But the carpenter fashioned the tree into a feed box for animals. The once beautiful tree was not covered with gold or treasure. She was coated with sawdust and filled with hay for hungry farm animals.
Farm animals? That sounds stinky.
So the second tree smiled when the woodcutter took her to a shipyard. But there was no money. They didn't make a big ship with it.
Sorry.
They made a tiny little a little fishing boat with the wood. And they hammered away, and instead of putting him into a giant ocean, because it was so weak, they stuck him in a small little lake. So then the third tree was confused when the woodcutter cut her into strong beams, really strong beams, and left her in the lumber yard. And then the tree said,
What happened? All I ever wanted was to stay in the mountaintop and pray to God. That's all I ever wanted.
Jordan.
sorry, buddy.
No.
So many days and nights passed, right? And the three trees almost forgot about their dreams. But one night, a golden starlight poured over the first tree. The first tree, as a young woman placed her newborn baby in the feed box.
Is that Jesus?
Well, I don't know. I wish I could make a cradle for him, her husband whispered. The mother squeezed his hand and smiled as the starlight shone on the smooth and sturdy wood. This manger is beautiful, she said. And suddenly the first tree knew he was holding the greatest treasure in the world.
Yeah, baby Jesus.
So one evening, a tired traveler and his friends went into the old fishing boat. Remember the second tree? Well, the traveler fell asleep, and then all of a sudden, it started to thunder and lightning, and the ship started going crazy, back and forth, and this little sailboat was thinking, how am I ever going to hold all these people in this boat? I'm so weak. And then the man woke up and he stood straight up and said, peace! And everything was calm.
It was Jesus.
What do you think, buddy? Was it Jesus? And at that moment, the second ship knew that he was holding the greatest king ever that ever walked on this earth.
Wow, that is so cool.
So one Friday morning, the third tree was startled when the beams were yanked from the forgotten woodpile. She flinched as she was carried through an angry, jeering crowd. She shuddered when the soldiers nailed a man's hand to her. She felt ugly, harsh, and cruel. But on Sunday morning, when the sun rose and the earth trembled with joy beneath her, the third tree knew that God's love had changed everything. It had made the third tree strong. And every time people thought of the third tree, they would think of God. And that was better. That was better than being the tallest tree in the world.
Yeah, way better.
So the next time you guys, the next time you kids feel down because you didn't get what you wanted,
Sit tight and be happy.
because God is thinking of something better to give you. Isn't that awesome? Well, Buddy and I just want to say we love you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.